Carrying on from the previous video about the ancient sea levels in Clackmannanshire, this video starts at the west side of Tillicoultry and progresses along to the site of the old St Serf's church in Alva. The blue area in this LiDAR animation indicates the land that would have been underwater when the sea was 35 metres higher than today and reached Vickers Bridge beyond Dollar. Half of Upper Mill Street would have been submerged, with the tidal coastline stretching from Fir Park School, north of Jameson Gardens, down to the top of Stillen Street, and crossing Upper Mill Street between Croft Head and Frederick Street, where it would have carried on across the golf course just north of the old coach road and westwards onto Alva. The lower parts of the golf course would have been under at least 6 metres of water, with the low tide mark likely being 3/4 of the way up the steep sandbanks. High above, there once stood a Pictish fort called Castle Craig, the second ancient monument of Tillicoultry, but this was also destroyed by industrialists in the early 1960s with the expansion of the quarry. The fort was 80-foot diameter inside, with 12-foot thick walls, and a deep ditch on the north side and cliffs to the south. The circle in this LiDAR simulation shows its prominent position high above the landscape below, which would definitely have been a strong strategic location, as the Tillicoultry Glen would have been one of the easiest access routes across the Ochils to Perthshire in the north. There are a number of different altitudes stated in historical records for this Pictish fort, so I've used the 160 metres version here, which seems most likely to be accurate. To think that Tillicoultry Glen beside Castle Craig Fort has been walked by people in the 1800s, in the Middle Ages, in Pictish times, and long before then by early settlers, probably for up to 10,000 years, makes our own lifetime seem but a fleeting moment of transitory insignificance. Moving along the ancient shoreline to Alva, we pass the site of Alva House on the slopes of the Ochil Hills. Most of the hills in the Ochils no longer have Gaelic names, many of the original names now long forgotten. But it's interesting that there is an Achill Island in Ireland, and also an Oghal fort, which makes me wonder if there's some linguistic connection from ancient times. The site of the old St Serf's church on the east side of Alva, above the cemetery, is only a few metres above the ancient 35-metre coastline. This model of the church in the animation is not exact to scale, but it sits on the precise location of St Serf's Church and the earlier St Servan's Church that is suggested on the 1892 Ordnance Survey map. As it was common for churches to be built over pagan and druidic sites to erase all traces of the early religions, this site could also have been a prominent marker location for early settlers. It also has a direct line of sight view to Knockhill near Sallen in the east, and Dumaya in the west. So again, it does seem quite interesting that this particular location was chosen for the early church that existed before the demolished one, just metres away from the ancient 35-metre watermark.